So do you want to cheers real quick to get us going again? Cheers. Welcome back.
Happy to be here. 11 p.m.
11.
On a Friday.
On a Friday. So today we're talking about a thing called domestic, I almost said violence, but that's not right. So let's start over. Today we're talking about a thing called domestic discipline, and it was brought to my attention by a follower/supporter of the channel, deconstructing_engineer. Thank you, Nick, for sending me this topic. This is something that, well, it's not, we haven't talked about this, but like, it reminded me of like BDSM kind of living where there's like agreed upon terms for how you want to express, and it doesn't even have to be sexually necessarily, but it is like a sort of consensual thing that otherwise would be a problem if there wasn't like the consent.
It sounds like some of what you're talking about here is almost less conscious, meaning they're not fully aware of their own preference for these lifestyles and where it comes from. As a certified sex, love, and relationship coach, is something that I know a bit about.
We want to talk about this because it seems like it has this Christian flair where they think it's empowering, but it sure does sound not empowering. Let's do this first. Let's define what domestic discipline is, and then we'll get into like how it relates to BDSM, kink, and alternate lifestyles, and then we'll explore the relationship that it holds to those alternate lifestyles. So the first thing that comes up when you Google domestic discipline is a Huffington Post article titled "Christian Domestic Discipline Promotes Spanking Wives to Maintain Biblical Marriage." First of all, I don't remember anything about the Bible saying like you should spank your wife to keep her disciplined. There is a verse that says something about wives submitting to their husbands and husbands taking care of their wives, but I think that for so long it's been twisted into this corporal punishment thing in the house where wives used to be spanked and children definitely have even more recently been spanked. And this definition comes from the same article. Domestic discipline is the practice between two consenting life partners in which the head of the household, or the HOH, takes the necessary measures to achieve a healthy relationship dynamic. Necessary measure to create a healthy home environmental, and the necessary measures to protect all members of the family from dangerous or detrimental outcomes by punishing the contributing and thus unwanted behaviors for the greater good of the family. That is a horrible that's a really poorly written definition. Domestic discipline is supposed to be a consenting form of discipline between two partners, where one is designated the leader and disciplines the other person who is the leader's subordinate for breaking the rules.
Got it.
I think most people nowadays, I would say including us, think of it as like more of a partnership, more of like an equal footing. Like, let's make decisions together because that's going to be the best that we can do for the greater good of our family. But this sort of reverts back to a more patriarchal, like hierarchical outline for a family.
Is this biblical in some way? Which it sounds like it's kind of not. If it is BDSM or kink or alternate lifestyles, it sounds confused to me because you spank children, right? And so when you're in a kink dynamic and one partner is being spanked, it's to evoke submission. It sounds like somebody learned about this idea and like incorporated it into some biblical concept without full awareness, to me.
I wanted to see if there was anything that was from the Christian's perspective, which makes Christian domestic discipline different from just domestic discipline, because I think there are two different worlds even within this niche side of alternate lifestyles. And here, this person, Fisher, who is a former pastor, said, "This is a horrifying trend, bizarre, twisted, unbiblical, and unchristian. Christian husbands are taught to lay down their lives for their wives and treat them with honor as fellow heirs of the gift of eternal life. God in the New Testament clearly asks wives to arrange themselves under the leadership of their husbands. In Greek, the word submit means to arrange under. But there is no place where husbands are instructed to make their wives do it or punish them if they don't." That's what I remember. A lot of people like to use the Bible verse, "Spare the rod and the child will be bad." It doesn't say that. Oh yeah, "Spare the rod, spoil the child." But there's a lot of unclear messaging around what that actually means. Like, I've heard people talk about the original Greek or Aramaic, whichever one it was, and say that no, it's not saying you should hit your kids with a rod. It's saying like discipline them, but disciplining doesn't always mean is hitting. So
And rod is the same word for staff.
okay,
For like a
so
shepherd.
shepherding.
You're supposed to shepherd and guide.
Yeah,
not
so
beat them.
right. We have a couple different takes on it. This person seems to be pro-Christian domestic discipline, and they say many of them being people who participate in Christian domestic discipline, report feeling extremely calm and relaxed after being disciplined and believe it's an expression of their husband caring about them and their marriage enough to help them modify their behavior. After the spanking, they are granted a clean slate. They don't need to endure the days of tension and shittiness that can follow an argument unresolved through discipline.
Because discipline's the only way to resolve an argument.
Yeah, that's where it starts to like move away from BDSM in my mind. I think BDSM and kink can be extremely helpful in finding your own limits and discovering more about yourself. I don't want to yuck people's yum, but it does seem like a bad idea to be resolving issues in a space like that, because so much of handing over and being a sub or being a dom is about trusting each other. And if you're mad at the person and you're disciplining them for breaking your rules, that's not really trusting. That's just like, you get in line.
Yeah, I'm sure there are people who perhaps consciously choose like a big little lifestyle. They live it, and I can't say that I know exactly what that is like. But it seems like for people who are exploring kink or dom subplay, it's a space of exploration, and it doesn't replace actual communication and safety and security in a relationship.
So the final thing before we get on to the event of this video is they talked to a forensic psychologist who's an expert on Christian domestic abuse, Jim Alsdorf, and Jim said no fool in his right mind would buy this as a legitimate way to have a relationship. A relationship that infantilizes a woman is one that clearly draws a more pathological group of people. I think I would tend to agree with that when it comes to mixing the Christianity in, because some women find empowerment through their own infantilization, but it's because there are those agreed upon trust and rules and things that you have set up. But I think that when you tie in the history of the Christian religion with its history of misogyny towards women, it starts to get a little weird that anybody would agree to this setup.
Like, I always come onto your channel and talk about it. I feel like it's people perhaps who have kinks and aren't fully claiming them, right? Or who have sexual preferences, and instead of just claiming them and living their lifestyle, they have to cloak it in something else, right? So it's like hate or shame against a certain group. When it's like, if you just want to live a sub-dom relationship, just do it. Don't pretend it's biblical. I think that's what's feeling weird about it, is that it feels wrapped up in this Christian dogma, and it's giving a bad name to what would otherwise be a consensual alternative lifestyle that people can live, right? There's nothing innately wrong with it. But the issue is pretending like it's not that.
So with that being said, what we thought would be fun to do was to swap some gender roles as we talked about this and have Elle do my makeup. I don't know, it's just a pretty obvious little gag. We're talking about patriarchal domestic discipline setups, while breaking down patriarchy in our corner of the world by putting makeup on my face.
Sounds good. So I want to know though, do you want like a day face? Do you want a more smoky night face? Or do you want a festival glitter setup?
Because I've done like festival glitter setups before, I don't want to do that one.
Okay.
I am interested to know if I was to just do a daily face kind of thing, what would I look like? But let's get a little fancy with it.
That's kind of what I wanted.
Okay, cool.
Disclaimer that I am just a normal person who does makeup. I don't know fancy things.
This is not a makeup tutorial. This is not like the Jenner Kardashian experience.
Nope, I don't even have the tools that we're supposed to have. So I'm gonna put on your face a BB cream, which I did in my YouTube video search of doing makeup on men. This seems appropriate. It's not a foundation. It's a little bit lighter than a foundation. You're supposed to have a sponge to put it on, and I just never bothered to buy them.
Well, that's fine with me.
I'll use my fingers.
I don't ever use anything, so. While you're doing this, I wanted to talk about this Instagram profile that Deconstructing Engineer sent me. This Instagram account is called In My Proper Place, which it sounds so weird to just start out like that, like a woman being in her proper place. It just is so sexist already. But the confusing part about all of this is that it is consensual. If a person wants to be submissive and dominated, then that's their right to do that, right?
A person can only consent to the level of knowledge that they have.
Okay.
You know? And so
poking my eyeball.
Sorry, trying to be gentle. Totally willing to be wrong here, but my read of the situation, again, is that they just have a desire to be dominated or to submit, but instead of just recognizing that, they have to wrap it in this Christian dough, like a pig in a blanket, right? And it's consensual, but it feels weird because it's not deeply consensual when you're like pretending like, oh, I'm just being a good Christian.
Something that hit me as you were talking was a piece that I want to connect to this person's description. Their description says hashtag submissive wife living the hashtag trad wife lifestyle. So trad meaning traditional wife. Practicing hashtag traditional gender roles and hashtag domestic discipline. I love a good 1950s aesthetic. The connection that I made there and what I think you're saying is that BDSM, kink, and alternate lifestyles are often challenging the status quo with a very deep awareness, whereas them wanting to play into traditional gender roles because they are traditional and because, like you said, it makes them a better Christian, makes it very different.
It's not subversive if you're just doing what the dominant culture does. Even if you think you're like being a radical Christian, the world hates Christians and wants to persecute us. We gotta be good Christians together. That's just not how it works. It's just not true. Like, Christians are not persecuted. You just need to fuck right out of here. I'm sorry.
I could see somebody saying feminism is taking over and people are leaning more towards non-traditional gender roles, but because it's becoming more of the norm to have like equal footing, it is breaking with the norm by going back to quote unquote traditional lifestyle choices.
No, that's not how that works. Who has the power? Christian white people have the power.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if it's not popular. You still hold all the power. You have the money, you have the power, you have the influence. It's still dominant. In my opinion.
Somebody asked them on their story, does it make a current loving wife a bad person if she's been a little rebellious as a teen? Which to me sounds like a Christian person struggling with like the fact that they're not a good Christian. I'm inferring a lot here to like fill in the blanks, but if anybody thinks that they are a bad wife and a bad person because they were rebellious as a teen, which is a natural part of our progression as humans, then they have deeper issues to deal with.
When you're in a when you're in a sub-dom situation, the point of being bratty and acting out is to receive the discipline. Like, that's the double consciousness. It's not like I actually don't know that I mess up and you actually need to punish me because I don't know any better. The reason why the sub is actually in power is because they are the one that is evoking the discipline from a conscious place because they want to receive it, because that's what feels good and exciting and playful or sexual. It feels high sensation to them in some way. And that's different from what I'm hearing here, which is like, oh, I didn't know that I was being bad and I need you to actually teach me. You can play that part, but you know. So you are in control, you are in power. That is why it's empowering.
Not just being disciplined because you broke the rules.
Not just like being ignorant to that, because you're not a child, you're not ignorant.
Let's see what else she has to say. Somebody asked, when was your last punishment or discipline and what instrument was used? She has a picture of a metal fucking paddle with holes in it. Said this is the paddle that he uses for every punishment. It's made of stainless steel and definitely gets my attention quick. I should have been punished yesterday, but my husband wasn't feeling well after traveling, so I will be put over his knee tomorrow for my recent disregard of keeping my bedtime.
I feel like the people who are following this account are just getting off on this. You know what I mean? That's an OnlyFans account.
Yeah. Somebody else asked, does your husband give you maintenance spankings to ensure future correct behavior? She said, no, my husband believes in only punishing bad behavior. So we've got a moral.
They have a moral code.
Only punish when bad things have happened.
The level of unawareness is what feels weird here, instead of just owning your kink and like going onto a dating site and finding people who have your kink, or going on to OnlyFans and just owning your desires, you know? Let me look.
To me, it's not the level of awareness. To me, it's the point we made about how kink and BDSM and alternate lifestyles are often breaking down the norm and queerifying the space of sexuality and pleasure and consensual relationships and what that can mean. Whereas this feels more like reverting back to...
Let's go to this side again, because that one got bigger.
I can see it.
I don't ever do it on other people. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be smoky, so we're good.
All right. Somebody asked, does spanking make you feel horny in some way? And she said, only the spankings that are given for that purpose. Punishment spankings never turn me on. That's like a main difference to me too. So they have the piece of like, we spank for play as well, which is a more quote unquote normal way to explore that space. But the punishment spankings, she said, never turn her on. Like, I don't think it has to give you sexual turn on anytime you're in like a sub-dom space. But I feel like, what are you getting from that? It sounds like it really is just punishment. It's trying to be corrective behavior. It's not power play to help each of them grow in areas where they want to grow or explore areas or even heal areas. It's just about, you did something wrong.
Yeah.
Now you get punished.
Yeah.
We would need to talk to somebody to really know, because we're really just like asking questions here.
Yeah, just going based on
this profile, and very limited experience. I wanted to look at a couple of their posts as well, because she writes some interesting perspective in some of her descriptions too.
Okay, I need one eye closed, please.
Okay, so this post says, a wife does not hold authority, but is held accountable by the authority of her husband. Her comment says, and held accountable I will be. My husband gets home tonight, and I know that we will definitely be having a discussion about disregard of the rules while he was away. So this is something that, like you just mentioned a second ago about the sub-dom relationship, is that the sub does have power. The sub has all of the power, really, to decide how far we're going and how much we're gonna do. Whereas this perspective seems to really just give all of the power to the head of the household, which in the Christian side of things seems to always be the man. So the fact that the person submitting does not hold authority, I don't know, authority and power, I guess, are different. Like, I guess the dom would be holding the authority, but the sub has all of the power. Whereas this sounds like the husband holds all of the power and authority. So when you submit yourself to discipline, it's not punishment, but empowerment. She says, knowing that I will be held accountable by my husband for my actions and behavior empowers me to do what I need to do and behave the way I know is expected. Without this accountability, I feel completely lost. This just sounds like someone who struggles to like focus. Being afraid of the consequences of your action is not empowerment. Empowerment is actually feeling a shift in the power dynamics in a way that allows you to have more control over what's happening, which is exactly what you were saying about subs and doms. Like the sub or the brat knows what they're doing when they break the rules. They are inviting the person with authority into the discipline that they have agreed upon, because they have the power to do so. She's just breaking the rules, and she knows she's going to be in pain because of it. That's not empowerment. That's just being afraid. She thinks that's the best way for her to be the best person that she can be.
Wouldn't she say though that she is growing and learning? Like, that's what's confusing.
I know, that's where I'm like,
I think they would say, oh gosh.
They probably would, yeah.
Think that she is like, I'm learning and growing, and I'm learning about how to be a good Christian woman.
Yeah. Keep your husband happy and follow his rules, says a 1950s styled cartoon. And she says, my husband has been out of town this week, and I have to admit that I haven't done the best job at following the rules in his absence. We'll see if he brings it up when he gets back home. Maybe, probably. There, it kind of sounds like she is playing with some of it. Like, that she is breaking the rules on purpose.
That's what I'm unaware. I'm not sure.
But that's what's confusing about this, is that, like, why wouldn't you just take it into the realm of sub-dom? I feel like that is so much more actually empowering for both people. There's some kind of warping that's happening here because of traditional gender roles. Like the idea that traditional gender roles are better.
If we could just say, this is an alt lifestyle, this is a form of BDSM, this is a Christian kink, this is a traditional lifestyle kink, cool. But the problem is that they're saying they're not that. I don't have a non-colored eyebrow thing, so I'm just gonna literally use pomade.
Okay. And here's this other post that makes it even more confusing. This says, you won't always be motivated, so you must be disciplined. And this is exactly what I'm saying. It's motivation to stop being a bad person. It's motivation to stop breaking the rules because they're trying to be as godly as possible. But she is saying that women can't find motivation to be a good person without being disciplined. Whereas no sub-dom relationship says that.
The exciting thing about kink is if you wanted to play with that, you could create a conscious scene where you're like, I don't know anything, or like, I need you to guide me.
Right.
Right? Like, then it's conscious because you want to play with maybe the way that you were raised, and you want to liberate yourself and process some of that undigested power dynamic, but it's conscious.
I think that's sort of what's weird, is that traditional gender roles are usually touted as being better for people in general. So it's like kind of putting it in this confusing realm of like, maybe they are just playing and this works for them, and they wouldn't say that anybody else should do this unless they really want to. But why does it have to go into patriarchal, misogynistic, into that place?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you trust me to do your eyelashes here, or do you want to do them on your own?
Yeah, here, you can do them while I'm doing this. Always make time for the things that make you happy. And it is a man spanking a woman again. And she says, spanking can be so many things, but no matter why I'm being spanked, they always make me feel happy and more connected to my husband. So they're using him for connection, and they feel more connected afterwards. And she says she feels happy. So it sounds like she is getting pleasure from being spanked and punished.
Okay, I think I'm done with your makeup.
Awesome.
Whenever you take me into these dark Christian psyche places, I'm just like, it just feels like another universe of confusion.
Yes. All right, so let's take a look at our makeup here. How do I look?
I think you look great.
Do I?
I really like it. I mean, it's a slightly more dramatic. It would be more dramatic if I had like newer, like better tools.
Are we not
But
doing
I think
lipstick?
it looks really good. I don't know. I'm a fan of the natural lip, I
You
guess.
like the natural lip? All right.
But I could get you something if you wanted. But usually, also you do like emphasize eye or lip.
Oh,
But I do have a gloss.
the rules of makeup.
That's like more neutral if you wanted to.
Yeah, let's
Oh,
try.
wait, I have
Let's
some.
try the gloss.
I do not have the right kind of brush for this.
You brush gloss on? Isn't it just like a tube where that you
Well,
roll
the
on?
one I have in here is
Oh, it's like a. Oh, okay.
so old. Look at that.
I don't know anything about makeup, so that looks normal to me.
Okay.
More like this?
No. Kind of like loosely open. What were we talking about?
I don't know. I've felt so confused during this video.
And I feel like we are deep in the weird psyche
Yeah.
of these people. Okay, rub your lips together. Yep, that's good. Okay, not quite so forcefully because you have color, but that's all right.
Oh. Nobody told me.
I'm sorry. I think it looks nice. Glossy. Gloss versus matte comes in and out of color.
In and out of fashion, you mean?
Oh yes, it comes in and out of fashion. So I think right now we're often doing matte, but I don't have as many matte.
Let me go look at myself in the
You
mirror.
go look at yourself.
I look horrible.
Why you don't like it?
I look so bad.
I
I look like a fucking clown.
I think everybody feels that way when you first put on makeup.
I look like a 13-year-old who just discovered makeup for the first time.
Not used to it.
I might not be used to it. I'm sorry. I'm like offending your
Oh,
your
my
makeup sensibility.
skills.
You're good at makeup on you.
It might be because of the gloss.
Oh, really? No, it was the eyes for me.
Oh, I
Yeah.
like this. I think smoky eyes look good on.
Well, I had fun, regardless. I don't know if I've learned anything more. I feel like I'm just more confused
I feel
since
like I'm
diving
more
into this.
confused. Just be out with your kinks and your desires and your identities, and
Yeah.
don't pretend like there's something other than what they are.
If anybody knows more about Christian domestic discipline, or if you are into it and you would like to talk about it, I would be very interested in having you on and learning more about it. So yeah, you know, we're not the experts here, but I thought this would be an interesting topic to dive into a little bit. And hopefully this made for a quick video, even though always with the quickness.
Ding.
So if you made it this far, thank you so much for coming. This is our dog Uma, by the way. She is really needy sometimes, and she was clawing her way up onto my lap, which is why I brought her up here, but she's a good girl. Thank you, Elle, for joining us. Would you like to plug yourself again?
So I am a certified sex, love, and relationship coach, as previously mentioned, and a trauma resolution guide in training who helps entrepreneurs, creators, artists, and educators unleash their most magical selves into the work that they do in the world.
So if you're one of those people and you want to work with Elle, I'll put her link in the description below. You'll also find links to my social medias. And if you feel so inclined, you can also find me on Patreon. I have a few new patrons who I gave a special shout out to in the last video. I'm gonna say thank you to them again because it really means a lot to me to have your support. And if you would like to see more of this kind of content or any other kind of content, please consider supporting me there. So thanks for coming. I'm gonna go wash my face.
No. I think you look cool.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe it's the color.
Maybe.
Maybe we should have left it neutral.
Okay. Bye.